The key is to seize the perfect timing to aim precise strikes, and at this moment, the primate titan misses its attack, leaving itself exposed. In other words, what adventurers must value above all else is the effectiveness of their attack, and at that moment, Jin was deeply impressed by Yu's skill. Yu, after dodging all the attacks from the primate titan and utilizing perfect timing, seizes the opportunity to strike the monster's chin with his baitan. An explosion occurs, and after it disperses, the beast's chin is completely disfigured. Its face utterly destroyed. The glasses Urian was wearing shatter, but upon realizing that his attack was indeed effective, and that he had won, the boy allows himself a small smile. A flashback shows a beautiful school illuminated by the rays of the setting sun on the horizon. The young Jin had just finished playing with her friends, and as it was time to go home, the girl bids them farewell. Stara Mimas is a bodyguard waiting for her with a car ready to take her home. So the girl says goodbye to her friends, and the girls plan to meet the next day to play again. However, Jin overhears some gossip with her own friends, saying that she was very lucky to be able to have whatever she wanted. Jin thinks they were entirely wrong, and she really couldn't almost everything she saw due to her social status. Her father owned his South Korean company rank 4th, the Gene Group, which was globally known and highly renowned. The successor of the group married an elf from another world, and from this relationship, something that would leave a mark on that world was born. The result was Jin's serum, a half-elf girl with dark hair and a determined spirit. She respected adventurers more than anyone else and even admired them, seeing them as inspirations. Jin dreamed of becoming an adventurer more than anyone else, and she was willing to give up everything to follow her dream. In the future, shortly after that flashback, a blonde elf is seen saying that something is impossible. Jin is utterly exhausted, lying on the ground, and at this moment, the blonde elf says that the girl's elven blood is very weak and that she might as well be mostly human. The blonde elf tells someone next to him that despite this, continuing to push the girl is very wrong, and it would be better to convince her otherwise. Then Serum's father, Jin Sung-yu, says that he isn't forcing the girl to do anything, or supporting her because she dreams of becoming an adventurer. He adds that it's not like elven talents are a requirement to become an adventurer, and the elf in front of him agrees. He then states that compared to a human, the girl does indeed have considerably good talent. But despite that, she's still just slightly above average, and even with her effort, it won't be rewarded. The blonde elf says he'll clarify something for Sung-yu since his daughter isn't just a human from a normal family. She won't give up on her own, and she's as stubborn as her mother, who is the blonde elf's sister. However, even so, the elf coldly says that despite her efforts, the girl will never be strong compared to monster-rank humans. But if she keeps trying and gets up every time she falls, she might become somewhat decent. Once again, there's a time skip, showing Jin as a teenager. The elf concludes by telling Sung-yu that with her effort, it will be enough for the girl to receive praise and recognition as a normal human. Even so, this daughter was born with many other benefits compared to her lack of talent, such as prosperity, name, and bloodline. These things will make her efforts futile, regardless of how much she trains. There are things that can't be achieved. People will laugh at her out of envy, and she might become completely isolated, as they will see her as just a spoiled girl. And one thing is certain, even if Jin is extremely strong, she won't be able to handle it for long because social isolation is something that destroys anyone. Since talent doesn't fall from the sky, we return to the moment when Juriang defeated his enemy. Jin, watching this scene, is completely astonished after so many events unfolding before her eyes. When our protagonist finally lands on the ground, the body of the monster he just defeated also falls, making a tremendous crash in the forest. The beast was completely destroyed and defeated after taking that powerful attack directly to its face. With a Batman in his hand, our protagonist walks normally until something tickles his ear, catching his attention. As he looked to the side for some reason, Juriang saw Jin, who was completely shocked as if she were seeing a ghost. Staring at the boy's face, the girl muttered that it was impossible, thinking that her savior was just a high school teenager. After touching his face, the young man finally realized what had happened, becoming extremely irritated for being so careless. In a flashback, June can be seen advising Juriang to be careful, not to break his glasses since they were quite expensive. Holding the strange glasses in his hand, Yu comments that they should only cost around 5,000 won as they look like an ordinary item. However, his boss denied this, explaining that those glasses prevented facial recognition, altered the wearer's voice, and had more than 4 magical enchantments. Back in the present, the expensive glasses were completely shattered on the ground after Juriang delivered that powerful attack. Staring his hand over his face, the boy muttered that things weren't going as he wanted, and that it was frustrating. Still confused, the young woman asked if the boy was a veteran of the Warrior Academy. But irritated by everything that had happened that day as he just wanted a normal mission. Juriang answered harshly, "No." Then, with extreme anger and veins bulging on his face, Yu demanded that the young woman hand over what she had promised. Unexpectedly, without hesitation, she quickly handed over the necklace, leaving him surprised by how easily it was done. He became annoyed by how rich Jin was quickly snatched the jewel from her hand before she could even get a good look at it. With the necklace in his hand, Juriang began to examine it closely and after a brief look confirmed that it wasn't fake. Catching his attention once more, Jin asked if the boy needed more money. She mentioned that she understood that even if he didn't attend the Warrior Academy, the tuition for the Adventurers Education Center was quite high. However, before she could offer to pay his tuition, the young man clarified that he wasn't attending any adventurers' school. The girl was even more astonished and he replied that she was completely mistaken in her assumptions. Juriang explained that he didn't go to any adventurers' school and had never even been close to one. On the contrary, he studied a regular school. The girl then asked her taught him to fight and he responded that no one did. Approaching her, with both hands in his pockets and a serious expression, he stated that he learned on his own. This time, it was Jin who became irritated and she yelled, saying that was utter nonsense. The girl began to argue that his movements and sense of timing weren't those of someone who had never been trained and Juriang must be joking. However, in a rude and not at all gentlemanly manner, something flew toward the girl, hitting her in the face. Realizing that Juriang had thrown something at her, she caught it in her hand and asked what it was. But after examining it, Serum realized it was a school ID card and upon removing the identity from the plastic, she began to analyze the information of her savior. Seeing the card, she noticed it belonged to Dongying Secondary School and saw that the name of our protagonist was Yu Juriang. Juriang said she didn't need to make an effort to remember since that school was just another ordinary one among many in the country. After so many unbelievable events, the girl was on the verge of a breakdown, declaring that it was impossible. Not wanting to be outdone, Yu pointed his baton at the girl and ordered her to hand over something to prove her identity, whether it was a student ID or something similar. After receiving it, the young man began to read it and noticed that the girl's name was Jin Serum, then checked if the document was genuine. Our protagonist also confirmed that the girl was the same age as him, realizing that she indeed belonged to the Warrior Academy. For some reason, he put that ID in his pocket and Jin asked why he was doing that. Juriang, puzzled, explained that at that moment, the girl had made an offer and that's why he couldn't take any risks. Since his identity had been revealed if he were to take on a mission for Jin, he needed some assurance that he wouldn't be betrayed by her. Moreover, Juriang mentioned that he wouldn't do a job without taking the necessary precautions, adding that he still intended to do one last thing. The young man pulled out his phone and suddenly put his arm around Jin's shoulders, pulling her into a side hug, leaving the girl very flustered. Yu explained that he's going to take a selfie with Jin because if she ever betrayed him, the photo would serve as proof that Jin was also an accomplice to his smuggler. As the two take the photo, the girl remains in shock at that moment. Juriang realizes she might have made a serious mistake. With a menacing expression, our protagonist tells her to smile for the picture and it was in that instant that she understood she had gotten involved with someone far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Putting a small, nervous laugh, the girl gives a fake smile for the camera. But it was too late to back out. Everything had already started and so Juriang snaps a picture with Jin beside the corpse of the Titan. After taking the selfie, the boy continues to look at the phone screen, ensuring that everything in the image was just right. He then tells Jin that they should start discussing prices and asks what exactly she wants. Still processing the young man's intense personality, Serum states that his mission is to collect coins. Jin explains that within the 6-hour time limit she must collect coins